Welcome to The Diner on West Central's Best Radio and the Today's Country 105.7 YouTube channel. I'm your host, Micah Pickering. My guest today is none other than State Representative Chuck Owen. Chuck and I talked about the previous legislative session, as well as many other current issues facing the local area. So let's get right to it. You're pulled in to The Diner. It's Micah Pickering here in studio with you, and I've got a special guest joining me today, none other than Representative Chuck Owen. How you doing, Chuck?
I'm good, Micah. Thank you very much. How are you doing?
Oh, I am doing well. We're having a great day today, and I'm glad you could stop by and join us.
Well, I'm glad to be able to. I have tried to do this in previous years when I got done with my time at the session, just to try to relay what I recall happening, and try to just kind of set the scene for what's up for us next in the state. So, as the representative from this area, one of the representatives.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about this past session. How did it all kind of go down? Broad strokes.
I would say broadly, it was like being in a dental chair for 8 weeks.
Oh man!
About week 6, the Novocaine wore off, and it got really difficult. It was weird this time because in previous years, for a lot of reasons, Micah, the state had budget surpluses.
Yes.
We're not very good at managing money in Louisiana, but my first several years down there, the state had excess cash that was hung around from disasters. And for whatever reason, we had extra money to spend. The economy was generated differently. This was the first year where we're actually facing a budget shortfall. Like last year, we had $600 million extra, something along those lines. This year, we were several $100 million short. And so the state had to creatively figure out how we were going to balance the budget because unlike the federal government, we can't print our own money.
Right.
We actually have to, less like a family, we have to make our budget work. So we did that, and that work began probably last fall. We started going down, hearing from different agencies about where their budgets could be trimmed. We talked to all the agencies. Everyone came in and told us, what would be the effect. We got it done.
Okay, good.
We actually spent less in state money this year than we did last year. We spent about 2% less. Now we have an enormous budget. We have almost a $50 billion budget in the state, but most of that is federal money that comes in and we wash through to pay mostly Medicaid bills. But as far as state spending goes, around $13 billion or so. So we spent less. We were able to I would say manage some priorities we were worried we weren't going to be able to do. In previous years, we've been giving teachers not a pay raise, but a one-time stipend.
Yes.
We were worried we weren't going to have money for that this year because of that amendment that failed back in March. I'm sure you remember that well. That was quite a mess that happened. But that was a hiccup, but we were able to get through it. So all of our teachers and support personnel will get a one-time stipend in October, just like they have in previous years. We're hopeful in the future that we can bake in a permanent pay raise. They'll go up on their permanent salaries, so their retirement will be different. So, and that's predicated on a lot of things. I will tell you that we were able to get some good road projects earmarked for our area. I worked very well with Senator Reese, Representative Shamahorn. For the people who live in the southern end of the parish, I am very pleased to report that we got a good tranche of money to fix Bailey Road.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever been on Bailey Road, but it is a terribly maintained parish road. And the parish has been trying for several years to get state money to help them fix it because they got their own priorities. So we did that. We did some other things. And all in all, I am pleased with the way the budgeting side of it ended up.
All right. Now, you mentioned that shortfall. Is there a direct attribution to what the previous year's shortfall was done by, or is it just a myriad of things?
It's a lot of things.
Yeah.
The budget process is very complicated, and if you step back and think about it, it really is because we're a complex state. We have lots of different revenue streams.
Yes, we do.
We have tax revenues that go up and down. We have businesses that come and go. Every few months, we have a group down there called the Revenue Estimating Conference. And it's economists that are hired by the House and the Senate and the governor, and they come together and they try to look at the economic situation and collectively forecast what's coming in based on tax receipts and economic activity. And so we kind of wait on that every quarter coming out. And so when they come out, then we adjust what we're able to allocate. Sometimes we wind up with more money than we thought. Last year, we had kind of seen this coming, actually. And so in a historical context, it was 2 years ago, right now, in 2023, where we had a big surplus. In 2023, we saw we had a big pile of money. But we also saw this last year coming. We saw what was just happening coming. And there were a group of us that said, let's head that off.
Right.
Let's put some money aside.
Rainy day, if you will.
Yes. And we lost that battle. We spent everything that we had. And so that wasn't a good thing. Well, we adjusted. You know, I'm never ashamed to say if I'm wrong about something. But I would say that was probably a 50-50 call there. But I just did not want to break a budget. We had enough money to spend what we needed, and we could have put some aside for this last year. But all in all, things are as okay as they can be. We've got some big events coming up. We passed some more legislation that'll hopefully help us economically.
Okay, so big events coming up. What you got on the horizon? Well,
some of these amendments that failed last year. Remember, we had that big amendment. It was called Amendment 2 that had all these things in there. That a bunch of things that we were trying to get taken out of law. So we could behave differently with the way we manage our money. We have these big, basically rainy day accounts you're talking about that we are structurally prohibited from being able to access. And if we could access them, we would be better off. Like there's one of these funds. It's not a rainy day fund. It's called a stabilization fund. What we'd like to do is take a big chunk of that and pay off the retirement debt that the teachers' retirement system has. Decades ago, this state made bad decisions and basically borrowed money to keep our teachers' retirement system solvent. Not a good idea. And then they saddled all the parishes with the debt. So every year, Vernon and Beauregard have to pay this big pile of money for a debt that the state incurred on their behalf. What we want to do is have the citizens approve us taking this rainy day fund and paying off most of that debt, which will free up money at the parishes. So the parishes then can bake in a permanent pay raise for their teachers. We would eliminate their debt payment so they can use that money to pay their teachers. That makes sense?
Right, at the local level.
Yes. And so it would be a permanent part. And some parishes will have enough money. I think Vernon will have enough money for a little more. Some parishes might have a little less, but what we've agreed to in principle is that if a parish can only afford an $1,800 a year pay raise, then the state will make up the delta. There's only about 5 or 6. So we'll vote on that again next spring, and hope for the best, and hopefully communicate it about it better next time.
Okay. Yes, because I know there was a ton of confusion, as there typically is with legislation.
There is, and look, what happens is we go down there, someone's got a good idea, and Micah comes forward with a good idea. He tells the staff person, or you write your own law, and then the lawyers torture the language, because the language has got to stand up in court,
right,
as opposed to the simple, the simple language that we're going to pay off this debt so we can give our teachers a retirement thing. The lawyers get it, and in order to win in court or whatever, they make it where we don't understand it. And my rule of thumb, Micah, is, and it has been for a long time, if I read something twice and I don't understand it, I'm a no. Okay. Even before I was a legislator, if I read something twice and I don't understand it, my vote is going to be no, if not hell no. So, because we shouldn't be that. We shouldn't do that to our citizens. So, hopefully, better days in the future.
Yes, indeed. Now, switching gears a little bit, you've come in the past talking about your football books.
I have, and we've had fun doing this here. I am wearing another hat as a proud graduate of Leesville High School. I have chronicled the history of Leesville football, actually, and Leesville basketball and Vernon football, and I write these books for fundraisers for the schools. And I go all the way back to the beginning of 1910 when Leesville started playing football, and I have captured every capturable statistic, many pictures, many stories. The book is about as thick as an old yearbook. It looks like an old yearbook. It's beautifully done. There's a printer down south who puts it together for us. And so because of what happened last year in Leesville when Xavier Ford broke all those records.
Yes.
He broke state records. He broke all the school records. He was one of the leaders nationally. I said, I normally update this every 3 years, but because Xavier just finished this, I'm going to do it this year. Hopefully it'll be ready by the time we get the season underway, if not by the middle of October. So it's a fun thing to do. It's a great gift. If you got a dad or a brother or a sister or a grandmother, someone who loves Leesville, there's lots of good pictures in there. It's a great coffee table book.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And it's a good capture of local history.
It is. It is. I found stuff and pieced history together that people had never heard, and it's literally my hobby. People say you're selling books. I'm not selling books. I'm selling books for the school.
Yeah, you're doing it fundraising, going to the school.
I love doing it. So something else, if we could, I'd shift back to this carbon issue. Do you need to take a commercial?
No, go right ahead. We got time.
This carbon issue continues to bubble around here.
Okay.
As you know, no pun intended. There continues to be this consternation locally about sequestering carbon below our feet in Vernon Parish, and also around the state. And we had a meeting. There was a meeting that we didn't have one. There was a meeting held last night in Rapides Parish, and the citizens of Rapides now are standing up and speaking the way the citizens of Vernon did about 8 or 9 months ago.
Yes.
They're basically finding out that things are planned for them that the citizens want a voice in, and they're not happy that they don't have a voice. So I went over last night and watched their public meeting. It was very similar to ours here, that the citizens want to be able to choose their own path. The moderator had to deliver to the citizens last night. One of the folks there said, we want to be able to vote on this. And the moderator had to say, we tried to do that this year, but we lost that bill in the legislature. Someone brought it up, that would be me, to try to get a statewide order where if a parish wants to vote out of it, they can.
Yes, that was HB 4 that
Yes,
you had tried to introduce.
I did. I got it in committee. We debated it for 5 hours, literally for 5 hours. Citizens came from all over the state pleading the legislature to let them decide their own fate. And I couldn't even get it out of a committee. There's a committee of 16 people, and we lost 6-10. I lost 6-10. But the citizens showed up in force. A few weeks later, we did another one that was a bill that was just for Vernon and one that was just for Beauregard. Lost it 7-10 in another committee.
What was your initial reactions? Because you were fairly confident heading in, because I was at the many of the meetings that you were, and it seemed that there was more of a shot at it than it turned out at the actual session.
I was startled at the amount of money that big oil and gas placed on this. Someone told me the other day they read that one of the oil companies spent $370,000 just lobbying in that session against those bills.
Wow.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is.
And they're basically what that means is they're paying lobbyists and they're buying ads to try to convince legislators to vote against those bills. And they were everywhere. They were swarming. And look, I don't blame the lobbyists for what they do. I don't blame bears that eat tied up goats. It's the industries that pay these lobbyists. The lobbyists will do whatever you pay them to do. It's the industry, the oil and gas industry, which has been destroyed in this state because of the lawsuit culture we have, Micah. And the oil and gas people are struggling to get by because we sue them so often. They found carbon capture as a mechanism to try to get money. And that's what it was. And so, yes, I was confident in my argument. I'm still confident my argument's right. And if you would have heard these people last night, you would have gone, oh, wow. People want to choose their own path. People want to be able, local governments want to be able to decide what happens within their boundaries. And it's not unreasonable for the Vernon Parish or the Rapides Parish or the Beauregard Parish police juries to make these decisions. And what House Bill 4 was, the first mechanism was going to be police jury. If the citizens don't like the result of that, then they could have called the vote. I had a primary and a backup safety valve there. And my colleagues were not for it. I was not surprised the Democrats were not for it, but I had a bunch of Republicans that absolutely turned their nose to it. And some of them are under a lot of pressure now because it's gotten back to their home parishes and they're like going, what did you do? So it's one of those moments. And so We did make some progress.
Yes.
We made some significant progress in the legislature this time. It wasn't exactly what I wanted. It might have turned out better. There was a bill that was passed. It was House Bill 304. A representative from down St. Helena Parish got it passed where if there's a land dispute, if they want to come up here, if an oil company wants to cut across your land and take your land and you don't want them to, and there's a court dispute, the court action will take place in the Vernon Parish Courthouse now.
Oh, really?
Not in the 19th Judicial District in Baton Rouge.
Okay.
It used to be, if Michael wanted to defend his land in Beauregard, you had to drive to Baton Rouge. Not anymore.
Local level.
The local court will be local court will be the venue. That means your neighbors will decide if Exxon or Capture Point or someone wants to take your land. And I think that's infinitely fair. And this is a beautiful bipartisan piece of legislation. Representative Carter is a Democrat, and I helped him. I worked really hard to get the Republicans on board to help him. We won it narrowly in the House. We only had 55 votes, but we just got it across the line. That was important. The other one important, Senator Mike Reese got done. His House Bill, Senate Bill 73, basically expanded the amount of people that have to sign up before a carbon well can take place. Right now, they put them in called units. They're 5,000 acre units. And the law before Senator Reese's bill was that you had to have 75% of the landowners in agreement before a well would go down in that 5,000 acre area. Senator Reese got it moved to 85. And that's an important increase. It makes it harder on the land. It makes it harder on the landmen that are trying to take your property. He also instituted a landman code of ethics, because I have received reports that some of these landmen have come down into parts of our parish and have tried to intimidate people with eminent domain. They've come in and they've scared people. They've told them they're going to take their land. They might as well sell it, or they might as well give it to the lease. And that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable behavior. The other thing that Senator Reese got done is, it's kind of in the same vein of what I wanted to do, is he got that made it where the state has to substantially consider the inputs of the parish where they're wanting to put a well in. So if they want to put a well in, let's say it's Simpson or Evans or somewhere, the parish gets the loudest voice, and the state has to substantially consider it. Before that, they have what they call a public comment period. They say, we're going to put a well in and we'll open it up for public comment. Now they have to significantly listen to the parish, and I think that's a big win. And so I'm really proud of Mike for getting that done. He is a great legislator.
Yes, indeed. For folks who are still concerned, still have questions about carbon capture, where can they voice their concerns, or what would be something that, hey, we've had meetings and we've talked about this. If we want to continue the conversation, what would you advise them do?
Well, I would encourage everybody who has concerns like this to speak to their legislator. Call my office, email my office, or if it's Representative Shamahorn, who also is a good legislator, email our offices or call us. We pick the phones up. Tell us what's going on. It's really important that we know, because look, I ask this question frequently on my Facebook page. Who is in favor of this? I've met 2 people in Vernon Parish who are in favor of it, and about 4 in Beauregard. I don't know anybody who wants this to happen. Now, they may be out there and they may just be non-vocal, but Representative Shamahorn and I did polls. We both ran polls in our districts. My district was 93% opposed to this. Representative Shamahorn's was 85% opposed to it.
And that tracks with the feedback that we've gotten just across our response to it in reporting.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm going to tell you what I think it is the very notion of property seizure is reprehensible to people in this part of the world.
Yes.
It is. I mean, we're not a wealthy area, but our land means things to us, and the rights to our land are similar to our rights to speak. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the right to property. Those things are baked into our culture. And the idea that someone can come take your land for a private good, because there's no public good in sequestering carbon. It does not exist. They're dumping that in the ground. There's no public good to it. You have to really stretch your mind to think of a public good. So that's why people, you're going to do what? No. So I think that's the root of it, is that this is just antithetical to our culture here. And people in cities, they don't get it as well because they're not going to put it under the floor in Baton Rouge or Monroe.
Right. It doesn't concern them directly, or they don't think it does.
It's in the abstract, as I like to say. For someone who's in St. Charles Parish, they don't really even know where Vernon Parish is. And for me to go to the table and try to explain to them what our culture is here, they kind of stare at me like a dog looking in a new pan. So I think they'll learn by next year, because the political pressure is going to be significant. It has been in other states.
Yes, indeed. Before we go, do you have a message you'd like to send out to the voters?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve. This is an honor of my life. I've had a good professional work life, but this is the highest honor I've ever had, and the people who entrusted me, I will continue to work hard. I am not hard to find. My office is in Rose Pine. My number is 337-396-7808. I am not hard to find. I work for you. That's my message.
All right. Representative Owens, thank you for coming in and talking with me today.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, folks. Today's Country 105.7. You are pulled into the diner. We'll be back with more music, more fun right around the corner. Special thanks to the representative for coming in and giving us some of his time today. Look for this interview on the YouTube channel, Today's Country 105.7. Thanks for listening to The Diner. If you like this episode, be sure to like and subscribe the Today's Country 105.7 YouTube channel. Download our smartphone app to take advantage of our live stream, and always keep your radio tuned to Today's Country 105.7. I'm Micah Pickering. Thanks for pulling in to The Diner.